Why do 90% of hackers swear by CounterSurveil? Let's dive in and find out. In the labyrinthine world of cyberspace, every click leaves a trace. But with CounterSurveil, you become the unseen. Our podcast takes you deep into the heart of hacking, where firewalls crumble and secrets unravel. From white hat heroes to shadowy code warriors, we cover the spectrum. Join us on Iron Geek, your portal to mastering the art of stealth and strategy. Discover the tools, the tricks, and the tales that define the modern hacker. Tune in and transform from a curious novice into a digital legend. This is CounterSurveil. Unmask the unknown.
Tune into the sound waves, secrets of the dark maze, dark codes in the nighttime, information aligned. We're free in the spotlight, chatting through the late night. Smart contracts are lying, are eating, they're defying. CounterSurveil in my ear, security we engineer. Learn the truth, don't disappear. CounterSurveil, we're right here. Crypto dreams and data streams. Listen close, it's closer than it seems. Fix the flaws, see through the smog. CounterSurveil, join the blog.
Hello and welcome to the CounterSurveil podcast. I am Frank, your host here with Sl3dge. This week we have special guest Thomas Sheedy from Atheists for Liberty. Next week we're going to be talking about mental health and other issues that we originally had planned for this week, but unfortunately had to push to next week due to some guest rescheduling and shuffling. But thankfully Thomas is here to save the day. Thomas, so why don't you tell our guests a little bit about what Atheists for Liberty does, what their mission is, and what they hope to achieve.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Frank. Thanks so much for having me, guys. My name is Thomas Sheedy. I am the president and founder of Atheists for Liberty. So we're a 501c3 American national nonprofit organization that fights to sustain individual rights and the separation of religion and government. We've been at it for 5 years now, active throughout the country, caring about free speech, free thinking, and freedom for all.
Wow, you've been at it for 5 years. You don't look like you've been over 21 for 5 years.
Yeah, I know, and I think the bad hairdo is kind of getting in with this. I know I agreed to come on in kind of last minute, but if I knew I was going to be on a podcast earlier, I would have gone to the barbershop beforehand. So I think just the boyish hairdo and not being able to maintain this thing properly right now is probably playing into it. Maybe that's a good thing.
Nah.
I've actually heard about your organization, so I put on my Jason Stapleton t-shirt, if you know who that is.
Ah, very nice. Very cool.
So, Thomas, we kind of have a very casual kind of format to our podcast. We kind of think of it like hanging out at a bar, shooting the shit. So feel free to chime in whenever you want. Don't feel like you need to raise your hand or wait to ask a question. Just go with the flow naturally. So first thing I wanted to touch base on was I've been following some of this drama with Hav0k over on I always say his name wrong.
Hav0k.
Yeah, that guy. Let's call himself the friendly atheist. And he seems to be throwing a bit of shade at AFL lately. What's all of that about? What's he complaining about?
So he's been complaining about us for a few years now. He's been fairly unfriendly, let's just say. Hav0k, also known as Friendly Atheist, he's a very known non-religious blogger that has a blog called Friendly Atheist. It's been very prevalent within online atheism, I guess you could say, for over 10 years. He's gotten his start in a lot of atheist think tanks and movement-based groups. And so from an atheist perspective, for many years at least, he was seen as like one of the go-to news places for anything new to find out about pertaining to atheism and skepticism online. Recently, a kerfuffle that happened is three very famous atheists: Richard Dawkins, who is arguably the most famous atheist in the world, Steven Pinker, who is a very famous professor at Harvard, and Dr. Jerry Coyne from the University of Chicago. They resigned from another atheist group called the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Now, why did they do this? They did this because the Freedom from Religion Foundation, an organization that once prided itself in kind of being nonpartisan in favor of things like fighting for the separation between church and state. They'll send lawyers to government entities or to other groups that violate our establishment clause of the Constitution. They kind of drifted off mission to get into a bunch of other social issues that people like Coyne, people like Dawkins, people like Pinker would consider to be woke. I'm assuming this is a term that we all know about here today because it's very prevalent in any online political space. It's a conclusion that I agree with them on. I agree that this other organization has kind of gone very politically extreme, away from the original mission of what that org used to be about. And so we have been rightfully condemning the Freedom from Religion Foundation for taking down Jerry Coyne's blog post, which was about the topic of biology not being about bigotry. And so we gained a lot of followers on X. We gained a lot of attention, a lot of new members. FFRF lost a good chunk of followers on X. And Steven Pinker, once being on their honorary board, joined our advisory board. So Hemant, being now a social justice blogger, he kind of has suffered the same fate as the Freedom from Religion Foundation. He went from mainly just talking about atheist issues to caring more about social justice. He doesn't like that Atheists for Liberty has been active and on the scene. He doesn't like the fact that there is an alternate organization that is pulling a lot of normal atheists left and right together to care about atheist issues and not social justice issues. So he's been active on YouTube. He's been active on X and other social media sources, basically branding us as a fringe right group, fringe far right group, whatever he calls us these days, to try to make us not look credible, to make us look politically extreme. When in reality, we are quite moderate, quite normal, and have a wide variety of people from a bunch of different philosophies and backgrounds aligned with all the good things that we're actively doing.
I find it really ironic. Oh, go ahead, Sl3dge.
For argument's sake, and so everybody's on the same page, what is a good example of an atheist argument, or whatever the word you used, like an atheist issue?
An atheist argument for an atheist issue?
No, I misspoke. You said atheist issue. What's a good example of that?
Okay, so I don't know. Let's pretend that there's a poll that says only 49 or 48% of Americans approve of an atheist holding political office. Or let's pretend that you are part of an atheist group and you try to get a table at the local parade. You know, every other nonprofit gets maybe a table to advertise themselves, but the atheists don't. Or maybe there's a poll out there showing that a lot of family members of, in particular suburban communities in a particular state don't like atheism and don't like atheists in general, right? Issues like this where we're trying to advance the normalization of atheists or being an atheist and being treated as a good person in society. You could call it atheist civil rights, for instance. This is something that our organization, and once a lot of other atheist organizations in the U.S. Care about and have cared about. Or have cared about, past tense for a bunch of other groups. So hopefully that kind of solves the question.
When it comes to issues like separation of church and state and prayer in school, is this something that AFL tackles?
Yeah, it is. We don't tackle it like other groups have in the past, so we don't have a massive legal arm where we can send letters to, with attorneys to government entities telling them to respect the separation of church and state. A lot of other orgs, like the Freedom from Religion Foundation, still do some of this, but used to do it, in my opinion, in a much better way, being nonpartisan, being more movement unified. But we are a movement-based organization. So culturally, through a lot of our in-person conference exhibitions, we're trying to do some stuff where we're communicating with college students more, kind of change my mind kind of style events. Our streams, a lot of the work we're doing online, hosting in-person meetups throughout the country, receptions, and also trying to gradually work on policy-related issues. We're trying to kickstart a new atheist movement that'll galvanize lots of people right now who are non-religious to fight for these various different atheist and church-state separation issues, secular-based issues.
So a lot of us who watch this cast are hackers, right? So the things we care about tend to be freedom of information, not stifling things like saying you can't say that here or trying to suppress free speech. Things of this nature. And in that regard, how does Atheists for Liberty kind of line up in terms of those values?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny, right, guys? I'm the president of an atheist organization with little to no STEM knowledge, talking to you guys, tech experts, explaining what my atheist non-for-profit organization is. How does this relate? Well, funny enough, it relates in a very interesting way. Every kind of nerdy hobby, every kind of club or clique or niche that you can think of, from a local knitting meetup group to a group of hackers or a group of people that maybe like to hang out down the street and play Minecraft. I don't know, at a gaming store, or Magic the Gathering, or video games of various different kinds, or every kind of thing. I have a bunch of Nerf guns in the back of this office. People like to play with Nerf. Every kind of hobby or interest or industry, especially ones that are kind of relating to skepticism, science, something nerdy of a sort. 10 to 15 years ago, pretty much everything that I just stated as an example, a lot of these industries got infiltrated by social justice activists, people that feel that your industry, ethical hacking or information technology, or whatever you want to call yourselves, you have too many maybe cis white males amongst in your industry or whatever. And because there might be too much of an interest from a particular demographic in whatever industry you're in, these social justice activists have said that your industry is full of bigotry. There must be something implicitly bad going on behind the scenes to prevent more maybe like Native American, non-binary, disabled persons of color from coming on in and having an equal standing next to you. Now, I would argue that by the early 2000s, by the 2010s, you could even argue by the 90s, I think a lot of things that were very visibly seen by liberals and conservatives alike as actual on-paper discrimination, a lot of that has been rectified and solved in the West. We could maybe have disagreements as to how much progress has been made, right? But a lot of these industries have reached kind of like this era of peak liberalism, where if you're qualified to be in a community or to get a certain position in an industry, doesn't matter if you're black, white, male, female, gay, straight, these industries in a modern sense are going to pick the most qualified person. If the most qualified people in a particular industry are white males just because they happen to have the interest or live in a geographic location to where they're interested in something, fine. Maybe the people that'll happen to be most qualified will happen to fit that demographic, maybe just because those people happen to be interested in a particular subject, not because there's actual bigotry or hatred towards people of other groups. Vice versa, you could look at an industry like, I don't know, nursing, where you'll see that industry is overwhelmingly female. It doesn't mean that there is a massive practice of discrimination against men, who might not be interested in the field of nursing as much as women are. Does that mean that, there are no men who want to be nurses? Absolutely not. There are plenty of men in the field of nursing, and they do a fantastic job just as much as women do. Or does this mean that there are no women of color in ethical hacking or IT? No.
So we do actually have some movements in the hacking movement to try and do things like bring women who otherwise historically haven't been as interested in the STEM fields into the fold. And I see a lot of those movements as good things, girls in tech, what used to be called the Diana Initiative, all these kind of things. I think they have done good in terms of getting more women interested in InfoSec. And we even have like conferences that are kind of within the major conferences to cater specifically towards different demographics. Hell, even the furries now have their own little conference at DEF CON.
Every kind of niche, right? Nerdy kind of niche, right? And atheism was seen, at least in the late 2000s, early 2010s, as kind of the science-y kind of nerdy niche. And basically, just to shortly conclude, atheism was one of the first movements in the West, kind of like information technology, kind of like the InfoSec community, kind of like video games, kind of like knitting, Nerf, you name it. We were one of the first communities to be corrupted by this kind of social justice kind of line of thinking that there's a deep culture of hatred and that's why you're not getting enough women or women of color or people of this group or that group, people of a former Muslim background or whatever. There must be some systemic problem that you simply don't see that is causing this issue to arise. And
Now,
it was a
the
campaign.
There is a lot to unpack there. I hate to use that phrase because it's one of the phrases most often used by SJWs.
I've been
But-
holding my tongue.
There is quite a bit there that I
Yes.
think is not only assumptive, but not quite, as they say in the Addams Family movie, not quite Chippewa. I represent one of those groups. I'm a disabled person.
Okay.
And I can tell you right now, with no question in my mind, with no hesitation, no ambiguity, that discrimination against disabled people is alive and well. And it exists on a scale that I believe requires action. Now, here's the problem that I see. There is no problem with atheism. What has happened is over time, as a tactic, people of different theisms have labeled atheism as satanic, as evil. Oh, if you don't believe in God, you must believe in the devil. A Kafka trap. If you don't believe in God, you must rape babies or, kick puppies. And that has made atheists look bad. The other thing is, a lot of people don't take the time and the intelligence to separate atheists from agnostics. And it's a very simple argument. An atheist will say there is no God. An agnostic will say, I don't know if there is or not. I don't have the proof, the tools, or the ability to prove it one way or the other. And sometimes they get lumped together. Now, when it comes to social justice, and this is strictly my opinion, but it's one that I've developed over time that I believe can be factually proven, is that there are two basic groups. There are social justice advocates, and these are people who go out there and they fight for what they believe is an injustice. Discrimination against people of color, discrimination against disabled people, discrimination against gay, lesbian, so on and so on. And these people have the best intentions in mind. They want to make a change for the better. They see a problem, or they're part of the problem. They might be gay, they might be lesbian, they might be disabled, and they're out there trying to fix the problem. Social justice warriors, on the other hand, take the worst possible example, blow it out of proportion, and for self-serving needs, go around screaming, yelling, and protesting and acting as if they are representing those interests, when at the heart of what they're doing is representing their self-interest. They are looking for books. They're looking for click-throughs. They are looking for media attention, social media, news media. So they will take the absolute worst representation and try and make it seem like that's all there is to it. So if you've got some kids who are playing D&D and shooting each other with Nerf guns, and they happen to say, well, maybe there is no God, I guess I'm an atheist, all of a sudden D&D and Nerf is responsible for turning kids to Satan. And they go running around with chick tracks. I'm assuming we all know what chick tracks are. Is that a yes or a no?
That's a no, big buddy.
Okay, you should look this up. It's called a chick track. And what they are little pamphlets with stories in them that are supposed to scare people into theism. They're little like miniature comic books.
Ah.
And it's like, here's a story of how D&D turned Billy to Satan. And at the end of the comic book, it says, Jane turned her back on D&D and went to church and confessed her sins.
Yeah,
And here she is with Jesus. And Billy is burning in hell forever. So a chick track is a great example of that. So it's hard to be a legitimate atheist in the current situation because you will get mislabeled, misconstrued. And the fact that I changed my avatar, I'm sure you'll understand, shocked. I'm shocked to hear that there are activists coming after you. Yeah, no kidding. Because as soon as you get out of the mainstream, people are going to come after you. If you're a punk, if you're a goth, if you're into ska, if you're an atheist, they're going to
As soon as you put a label on anything.
Right. If you go put on any kind of counterculture or something that's not part of either the monoculture or the theoculture,
the social
then
justice
you are
want in, and then they want to take it over.
Yeah, you're gonna be destroyed. They're gonna try and stomp on you,
And
they're gonna try every dirty trick in the book. They will throw everything at you. They will say that you finger fuck yourself on weekends while watching Freddy Krueger movies. They will accuse you. They'll use Kafka traps. So you got to be prepared for this. If you're going to be anything outside of the monoculture and the theoculture, you're going to be attacked. End of story. No questions asked.
My favorite is when they blame you for something that they're already guilty of doing, like projecting.
Oh, yeah. The thing is that you've got to be prepared for that. And the preparation needs to be not turning their own tools against them. People say fight fire with fire. If you're going to come with a gun, I'm going to come with a sword. If you're going to come with a sword, I'm going to come with a baseball bat. You just have to call them out directly on what they're doing and then apply the war games theorem, which is the only winning move is not to play.
Right. I say don't even engage.
Go ahead.
Like, never apologize.
Yeah. We that's the thing with Atheists for Liberty. We don't play their game anymore. Unfortunately, a lot of other atheist think tanks did, and that's the only reason why Atheists for Liberty even incorporated and even has to exist, because a lot of these other atheist groups that were known for the past 20, 30 years, they succumb themselves to that.
You've got to understand, you're going to catch shit. You're going to catch shit.
I already understand that. We've been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing this for 12 years.
I'm saying you can't. I mean, to people complain about it as if it's something new or scary or weird. No, look. When I was a kid, I liked Star Trek instead of Dukes of Hazzard, and I got the shit beat out of me on a regular basis. I had kids come up to me and I had to have my nose cauterized 3 times in grade school because I would get beaten up because I liked Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, not Bo and Luke Duke. So you've got to expect this. When I lived in New York City, Abaprots were everywhere. Okay, they were everywhere. And you would come out of the subway and there would be a person with a pickle jar with a fetus in it and shaking it in your face and screaming at you, this is what abortion is. So you've got to understand that you're not dealing with rational people. And you have to deal rationally with irrational people. That's not easy. I don't envy you your position, but I just want to reinforce that, beware when you go hunting monsters, lest you become one.
So to that end, Atheists for Liberty seems to focus a lot on issues related to what atheists care about. So a lot of these other atheist organizations, from my understanding, have picked on and taken issues that are kind of outside the core of not believing in a God or gods and protecting people who don't believe in God or gods from unfair treatment to, we're going to take on this activist cause or that cause. And they've expanded so much that their core focus is no longer on atheist issues, but on all these other issues.
It's hard not to do that, though. Because every major issue you bring out has a basis in religion. And yet it sounds a little weird, but when you think about it, look at every single issue we are fighting right now. And if you dig down to the root cause, you'll find religion every single time.
And you don't even have to say God is the base of said religion. Even wokeism is a religion.
Yeah. So
that's one of the arguments that they make at Atheists for Liberty is that this so-called woke culture, which is the term that a lot of people have kind of agreed on and some use ironically, is become very much like a belief system minus the God aspect, where they have their own. Thomas can describe this better than me. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's this system of repentance. This feeling that you must atone for the sin of saying something offensive and angering people. And I guess just to also add on to what we said a little previously, I think any organization can make any justification as to why they care about an issue. The only pushback I guess I would make against that is that, I guess it depends. You can draw a line in the sand pertaining to certain issues as to what you will focus on and what you will not focus on, right? So if you're an executive director and you have a board of directors and you have a staff that's actively engaging in stuff, you can set certain standards as to what you will focus and what you won't focus on. So I've actually had to engage in this very just over the last 24 hours. I'll give an example of us trying to make sure that we draw sand when it comes to not going too far left, and us drawing a line in the sand to make sure we don't go too far right when it comes to some of these issues. So we'll talk about the right for a second. So we have a lot of members in Atheists for Liberty who call themselves anti-woke, right? People that are against this kind of social justice dogma, social justice religion, what happened to a lot of these other movements and to movement atheism. And so a lot of these people joined Atheists for Liberty due to opposition of other organizations going in said direction. It's very cool. We are very anti-woke, and there's a lot of overlap these days between being anti-woke and being, I guess, in modern terms, on the political right in the United States. So in many ways, a lot of things that have been happening in like movement conservatism, for instance, in the Republican Party, for instance, right? There's some overlap between some conservative work and conservative activism and nonpartisan, anti-woke kind of free speech work. And there have been a few times where we've actually had some anti-woke or non-woke atheists engage in work and state things that go way outside of Atheists for Liberty's window from the right-wing perspective, where I have had to say as president, and I actually did, funny enough, made a statement in our Discord that in order to basically like constitute being a professional advisor or board member of Atheists for Liberty, you have to, not be woke. Definitely, that is one of the core things that makes us different than the other atheist orgs. But also to be a proud atheist and to be proud of atheist advocacy. You can't crap on an atheist org engaging in atheist work, but criticize woke atheist orgs for not engaging in said work. So I've always tried to make sure that that line is drawn in the sand to make sure we never veer too far right. Now, I will also make an example of something that happened over the last 24 hours to make sure that we as an organization never veer too far left. So I had a call, won't say who this person is for the sake of their privacy, with a social justice leaning member of the organization today. And this person found out about the drama where Richard Dawkins, Jerry Coyne, and Steven Pinker resigned from the Freedom from Religion Foundation's honorary board. It was based on the Freedom from Religion Foundation taking down a blog post from Jerry Coyne where he argued that biology is not bigotry. So they basically censored an anti-woke atheist's view on trans issues in response to a woke person who's involved with the Freedom from Religion Foundation writing an article saying that I didn't read the full article, but what I'm assuming is urging FFRF, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, to be woke and to get involved in all these outside trans issues.
Question for you. When he stated that statement about biology, did he qualify that with how they are qualified to speak on the topic of biology?
Yes, we republish it on our website. So if you go to atheistsforliberty.org and you go to the opinion section, you can read it there. We offer
the specific person you were talking about.
So it's on our website. So biology is not bigotry. Atheists for Liberty. If you Google that or if you go to our website, you'll be able to find that there.
So they do qualify it, because one thing I see a lot of people who throw around biology on both sides of the fence have very little, if any, formal knowledge or practical knowledge of biology. They will say beautifully ignorant things like there's men and there's women and that's biology and that's it. And that's wonderful if you're in 6th grade. And it's great if you're in high school and you decide to skip biology class to go smoke pot. But the thing is, it's not correct.
So just to quickly answer your question, Jerry Coyne is one of the nation's leading evolutionary biologists, and Richard Dawkins is probably the world's most famous evolutionary biologist currently, who's wrote a book in the 70s called The Selfish Gene and a bunch of other books on biology and religion. But I just want to make my last point just to prove my point here. We had a call with a concerned member who wanted to make sure that we did not make our entire organization about talking about trans issues, because it is an outside topic, to be fair. It is something that we don't organize in our purview. But at the same time, I needed to make sure that we didn't kowtow too much to the quote social justice side in appeasing feelings, but also betraying our mission. So I had to do the right thing as president in this call and reassure that member that I am going to make sure that we focus on the core issues that we do, and that I want to make sure this person in the organization is treated with respect. But I was flat out honest in saying that a good chunk of our membership and even some of the stuff that we stand for might be things that personally anger this person. So I kept my cool. I kept my respect. I made sure that we did not do exactly what FFRF did, exactly what American Atheists did, and veer too far left and abandon that unifying mission as well. So it's something that I think is possible. If you run an organization, you will have people that will try to guide you to focus on so many other different topics, so many other different issues. Sometimes it's hard to keep everybody together, but it is easy to at least put your foot in the sand and draw a line and say, here's what we are going to talk about and focus on, and here's what's inappropriate and what we're not going to focus on.
I found it ironic that they're
in that case, real easy to do, is in everything. And if you've seen any different, please let me know. In every single case of anti-transition, anti-trans, so on and so on, 100% of the time, it's based on religion. And as an atheist, you don't have religion. Therefore, it's a done argument. Done. We don't believe in it. We don't practice it. So that might be a rule for a religion, but we're without religion. So there's no debate. There's no debate. There's no points to be made. There's no arguing biology or this or that or the other thing. It's very simple. At the very core, they may claim it's biology, but when you scratch deep enough, like you're going for a lotto ticket, you're going to find religion under there. And as soon as you remove religion, they have no more argument. And I don't understand personally why more people don't get that. And then when you use that argument, they shut down and they freak out and go, oh my God, Satan. And they start throwing holy water on you and reading novenas and, shoving a King James up your backside. And, no, as soon as you remove religion, all your arguments against trans die.
Well, I'll just say this, because I don't really care about dying on this hill. There are a lot of secular arguments to be made on both sides of the gender ideology and trans conversation. I used to believe back in like 2013, 14 that only that a lot of opponents to anything LGBTQ related come from a religious place. But the more that I looked into the topic, I saw a lot of liberal leaning, respectful, equality, advocacy based atheists that have critiqued certain portions of certain arguments on things. And the only thing I'll say is a lot of these people that are on the opposite side when it comes to critiquing things like gender ideology, they're not coming at this from a place of bigotry. So Richard Dawkins, for instance, who is who is labeled by the social justice crowd as anti-trans, he is the world's leading atheist, biggest proponent of science, and who's against gender ideology, but he also has employed transgender people in his organization. So I used to think that it was just black and white on this. This is the silly justification that FFRF has made in their open letter after they removed Jerry Coyne's article. But I started to learn over time, no, it's a lot more nuanced and it's a lot more interesting. And I think it's stuff that more and more people can learn about if they look into these kind of topics, on their own time. And it's so nuanced that we even have some trans people in our own organization with nuanced gray views on the matter too. So that's just.
I wasn't trying to say it was bigotry. I was not trying to say that it's all bigotry. What I was saying to say was that the objections are religious based.
I would disagree with that.
One of the things I love to throw at people is people are more willing to accept biological mutations and things that happen to the human body in the X-Men than they do in the person sitting next to them. They can accept that, a biological mutation made this person turn invisible and shoot lasers out their eyes, and this person can fly, and this person has telekinesis. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, this person has a biological condition that makes them intersexed. Oh my God, no, that's satanic. That's the Bible says Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. And they start throwing the Goat Herder's Guide to the Galaxy at you. And I just think the easiest way to shut that down is to simply say, okay, remove religion from the argument.
Religion is not even part of the argument.
Yeah.
And to Thomas's point there about having some trans members in AFL, I actually met my fiance, who happens to be a wonderful transgender woman, in an AFL meeting that I attended. So it is kind of interesting that I volunteer some time for AFL. I help them keep their website up to date, things like that, right? So I've been found out recently we're being called a transphobic organization, but I met my partner who's trans in a meeting for the organization. So it is kind of ironic, but I would like to move past this whole trans issue point, at least for this podcast. We only have Thomas for another maybe 10 minutes. And I wanted to talk about some of the other stuff that AFL does. Also some critiques that people have made, like you guys go to CPAC, which is the Conservative Political Action Committee, or you guys go to Freedom Fest, but how come you're not going to other organizations meeting or event, things like this?
I'd love to talk about that.
Go for it.
Yeah. People put labels on this organization. So one of the things we tried to do. So actually, what Delshi was actually saying about taking religion out of the argument, I love that. I couldn't agree more. I think no matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican in this country, you should base your stances on politics or policy, whatever our policies should be in this country, based off of a secular, non-religious argument, because not every American is going to hold the same religious beliefs as you do. So you have to make some kind of framed argument that everybody can kind of understand, no matter if you are a Christian, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, atheist, etc. Everybody can understand a rational reason as to why you might hold a policy. Everyone will more closely be able to respect a secular viewpoint as to why you agree or disagree with something than a religious one if you don't agree with that person's religion. So we've noticed that a lot of atheist groups, they happen to spend a lot of years normalizing atheism, particularly in the Democratic Party, in liberalism or leftism or progressivism, whatever you want to call it. Even though Atheists for Liberty is not strictly a right-wing organization, by the way, we have plenty of Democrats that are members of our organization as well, plenty of liberals that are members of our organization as well. We wanted to kind of fill in the other 50% of the puzzle, if you will. So if there's not enough activism being done to get maybe libertarians, conservatives, Republicans on board, we premiered our organization in 2020 at CPAC, also known as the Conservative Political Action Conference. We're not a Trump org. We're not an anti-Trump org. We're just not even in that category. We're an atheist organization. But we were there saying, if you happen to be conservative or if you happen to have right-wing political outside views, you can also be an atheist and you should be treated with respect. It is fine for you to be out and proud as that. Well, some of the criticism we have received is that we must be some MAGA group, we must be a far-right fringe group for doing this or whatever, when that isn't the case. And not to mention, we're also a 501c3 educational nonprofit through the IRS code. We are not able to endorse candidates or parties. And we've said repeatedly that we are very ideologically and philosophically diverse here. But yeah, we've been told, oh, you sponsor CPAC, so you must be bad. We've been also so we've gotten that criticism again from the social justice crowd. But then sometimes we've been having issues as well from conservatives too. So we tried to sponsor the Turning Point USA America Fest, actually, back in December last month. They have their yearly massive convention in Phoenix, Arizona. I tried to email Turning Point USA because we sponsored their event in 2020 in Florida. Like, hey, we might be interested in sponsoring. Would love to know the sponsorship packages. Please get back to me. They ghosted us. And at the America Fest convention, you had Michael Knowles actually on stage at America Fest saying that the baseline for being involved in Big Tent conservatism is that you have to believe in God, and that is the line that you can't cross. So it kind of shows you we're disliked by certain religious types and theocrats in the conservative side, and we are disliked as well by Islamists and by social justice activists on the other end of the spectrum. We annoy feelings-based religionists of all types. And so obviously we're painted in a broad brush way with certain labels by people like Hav0k Meta, for instance, because it's convenient for them to put that label on us instead of dealing with the fact that they got some serious competition and they don't want to lose their monopoly on atheism.
Well said, Thomas. I do believe you told me to remind you when it was 45 after the hour because you have another engagement in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm good for another 10 minutes or so. But yeah, I have a meeting at 8 Eastern. Really appreciate, by the way, being invited onto the show. We just had to plan this meeting a few days in advance. But yeah, I can chat for another 10 if you guys want me to.
I do have a final question for you. All the answers I've gotten are pretty vague, so I'm trying to figure out what this organization actually does. Is it kind of like ACLU but different?
So we mainly we are basically an educational organization. So we try to educate people on atheism, try to make it easier for you to be out and proud as an atheist. We have a lot of shows where we try to teach people about atheism and different conversations pertaining to the atheist cultural sphere. So we have shows that talk about philosophy and different secular philosophies that are trying to solve this issue of what gives you meaning in life and purpose in life if it doesn't come from religion. So we have a lot of educational shows, programs, YouTube streams like similar to this in format on StreamYard, X Spaces, and we're trying to have a lot of meetups around the country too to show people, see, we can give you community and purpose and belonging, and you don't have to go to a church or a temple or a mosque to do that. And we're involved in a bunch of various different free speech fights and also separation of church and state fights, but we don't handle really mostly the legal arm of that because other organizations handle that. We're trying to start a movement, a radical but powerful and needed movement to normalize atheism, safeguard secularism, preserve free thinking, and advance individual liberty.
Gotcha. Okay.
And we have more info on our website too. And I'm more than happy to come on the podcast again if there's any unanswered questions. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Thomas. We're going to be moving on to the InfoSec news segment of the cast now.
Gotcha.
Stay as long as you would like, but
maybe it's important that I do get off in a moment. Then
we can watch this mind melt, like tech stuff.
I should always learn a little bit more about tech stuff, but it'll give me more time to prepare for my meeting. But guys, I really do appreciate having me on. Frank, it's always good to talk to you. And this was an awesome show. I appreciate the questions and the feedback and everything. And so, yeah, atheistforliberty.org. I name myself here on StreamYard at Sheedy Tom, because if people want to follow me on social media, that's where you can follow me. And thanks so much for having me on, guys. And if you ever want me next time, looking forward to coming on then. And take care.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks.
See you later.
So we got a few articles I'm going to be covering this week. I'm going to start out with just this one, which is not really purely InfoSec before we go into the actual InfoSec ones, but I thought this was kind of cool, so I'm going to share it. And let's do the present thing. Share screen, share window, and we'll go with this one. I thought this was really cool. So this dude repurposed a bunch of laptop batteries and essentially built himself a little Tesla power grid type thing using laptop batteries and little charge controllers. I thought this was pretty badass because a lot of the times if you open up a laptop where it's gone bad, some of the batteries are good, some of them are bad, but they're all strung together in series, so it doesn't matter which ones are good or bad. You got to replace the whole pack. But now you got a bunch of 18650s that essentially are good but are going to need to be recycled. So this was a pretty cool project, in my opinion, to take those batteries and turn them into essentially an ability to work like an EcoFlow or something where you can store power in case the power goes out and then charge it up.
I'd play with it.
Absolutely. I love that kind of stuff, man. Also, we have a pretty cool build I wanted to cover where I was actually challenging Delchai if he could build it faster than me. Let's see if I can find that article real quick. Oh yeah, so this one was actually a YouTube vid. So I'm gonna just very quickly share this video and switch over to this one. So this dude right here built a directional Wi-Fi finder using a PTZ component from a camera.
In his stead,
so that you can
XJ9 is ready to step
essentially
in and do all the things.
do some pretty cool stuff in terms
The
of
thing that
seeing
would
where
give
the
a Raytheon
Wi-Fi and other
executive a stiffy.
2.4
It's actually
gigahertz networks are. I think this is really freaking cool. I can't wait to build this just to kind of, it reminds me of so many other cool projects I've seen. He calls it the XJ9. I love this stuff, man. It is so cool.
I give my evil laugh because me and a buddy are working on something similar, but different protocol.
Bluetooth would be a good option as well for this kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll talk offline.
So this one also, I'm going to share this tab. So this radio right here is the latest one. Well, not the latest, but a pretty good one. In terms of those cheap radios you can buy from China if you're like a ham radio operator that aren't going to be super noisy and piss everybody off at you. And this dude actually built custom firmware for this, which reminds me a lot of a project from back in the POC or GTFO version 1 book, where somebody built custom firmware for very similar software-defined radio setup. Well, not software-defined radio, that's the wrong verbiage. Handheld portable radio. This is some cool shit. Like,
so what radio is that?
So it's for the TD-H3 or H8. So that's a TID radio. So I think it's also called Tetra, if memory serves. And this essentially lets you take the shitty firmware that it comes with and replace it with some much better firmware that was handwritten by this dude. And it's going to have an improvement like an S-meter, detection and display of CTSS tones for repeater usage, a new programmer that allows the radio memories to be programmed from a computer, but also a remote terminal. So you can essentially operate the computer remotely if you have it plugged into a computer and you want to like SSH to that computer and make some changes. I love this kind of shit. Definitely a cool upgrade for a cheap radio.
That would be a fun network drop.
Yeah. So, and then we move over to yet another company is making flashing custom ROMs more restrictive. This is in ROMs for cell phones, mind you. So you see how you have the ability to unlock the bootloader on a lot of phones. This company, Xiaomi, I can never pronounce Japanese or certain Asian words very well, so apologies for slaughtering that. But Xiaomi has changed their bootloader. It used to be you could unlock it, so it was a relatively cheap phone that you could get, then unlock it, and then use it for your own purposes. Well, the new ones, they're locking the bootloader and not letting you unlock it, at least not easily, unless you're able to find some kind of exploit that you can get root on the phone with. This is not entirely unexpected, as Huawei, who is on the list of banned providers, by the way, blocked their bootloader, essentially making it impossible, or very, very difficult rather, to unlock one of their phones, especially ones that had previously been easy to unlock. But now you essentially go and update your software on it, and now it's got a blocked bootloader as well. So they did reach out and are waiting to hear back, but I hate when they do this kind of stuff because, look, if you buy the phone and it's on some kind of contract, you should be able to do with the phone what you want. If I want to unlock the phone and go and deep-load it, or if I want to go in and, install some kind of third-party software that requires root access, I don't want the person who made the phone telling me I can't do that. I can't put a custom ROM on there. I can't extend the life of my phone by putting a slick little like low memory usage ROM on there to extend the life. I would like the ability to do what I want with my equipment. So I really didn't like when they do this kind of shit. Now, this one I found pretty cool. So I have a Kindle, like a lot of people do. I actually got mine on sale during one of those Woot sales for like $23. And it's like the kids version of the Kindle, but it runs the same software as the regular one. This new tool called Winter Break is taking advantage of a security vulnerability in their software that is letting you root your Kindle device and essentially put your own software on it, which I think is really cool because now you have the ability to install these plugins so you can natively read like different file formats on your Kindle. You can do all sorts of cool stuff, like maybe, for instance, turn it into an SSH client. So if you want to have a little thing that you can SSH to your computer with on any Wi-Fi and have it have a screen like a Kindle does, which uses e-ink, so the battery life is freaking insane. I mean, it's a pretty cool device to be able to have if you're on a Kindle with a little touchscreen keyboard and you want to SSH to a box. Nobody's going to realize you're doing that. It's incredibly inconspicuous.
That's pretty damn cool.
I love that kind of shit. Next, we got this dude. Oh, where'd it go? Somehow I lost my Control-Shift-T, maybe. Nope, we lost it. Next, we have this guy over here, and I'm gonna have to reshare my screen, it seems. Share screen. There we go. So this deep loading wizard managed to get Windows 11 running on 184 megs of RAM, and it looks like it can actually even run apps, at least Notepad. 184 megs to load this entire OS is pretty freaking badass. And considering, you know, at the bare minimum, a lot of people just want to be able to run certain Windows apps, to be able to deep load it to this degree, where it's running 184 megs of RAM instead of the, like, to put that into perspective, Google Chrome, when you launch it, usually uses almost a terabyte of RAM on my computer alone. So to be able to get the entire OS running in that much RAM is pretty decent, especially for a modern OS. And that's Tiny 11. And I think that's cool shit that they do that. I always worry when it comes to custom ISO images, though, if people are doing any nastiness in terms of putting little backdoors into these custom ISO images that they put together for people. So I always worry about that. But luckily, he also released a debloater script, so you can install the actual thing yourself and then debload it after. So you don't have to rely on a custom ISO file to install it, which is nice. Sl3dge, I'd like your commentary on this one. Encryption backdoor debate done and dusted, former White House tech advisor says. When the FBI starts urging people to use end-to-end encryption, you know it's serious business. So last week we talked a bit about Salt Typhoon.
First question that comes to mind is, oh, end-to-end encryption. Okay. What kind of backdoors do they have in the end-to-end encryption that they're forcing people to use?
I had the same thought, because the first version of this that came out was like, you should use responsibly managed applications that use responsibly managed encryption was the key phrase. See, it's even in this one, responsibly managed.
Yeah,
right. That was V1 of the argument, and then they listed apps like WhatsApp, which, by the way, doesn't have default end-to-end encryption, nor does it support it for group chats. Only supports it for individual messages where you go through the trouble of then going into settings and turning it on. So obviously, in my opinion, not the best suggestion.
Makes steganography cool again.
We really should. And then all the other apps that were on that list were either closed source or ones that have known government backdoors to be able to decrypt messages if they so choose. But then this week, they updated it and added Signal to the list, which makes me nervous because Signal's my favorite encrypted app that I use. And now I'm like, did they get a backdoor in Signal somehow? Because now it's considered responsibly managed.
I've been nervous about it ever since Moxie sold it. So I'm like,
I know, it's like they got a lot of moxie, I gotta say, if they are gonna backdoor Signal, because if memory serves, it's based on the Open Whisper protocol, which was originally developed for journalists who wanted to use that feature in a lot of the chat apps called Off the Record, OTR, which was like a plug-in for Pigeon and all these other ones where you want to have an encrypted chat with somebody. This was supposed to be really good encryption to do that. That was not easily able to be modified to be backdoored. But I have also noticed they've updated Signal lately with some other features, like the ability to have scheduled links for calls, kind of like a Teams thing. And I wonder if these updates came at a cost, and if that cost was our privacy. Because that
most
really
likely.
So yeah, it does worry me that they've added that to the list, especially when we are focused on privacy and security on this cast, man. It's like our whole shit. So
it's like, you know what they say, if it's free, you're the product.
I agree. Oh, good suggestion there. Did I take a pause between articles for a suggestion? Sorry about going so quickly there.
But we should also bring up Mark Rogers' Kickstarter or the GoFundMe thing for him.
Absolutely. So let me pull up the link for that one. So for those of you who don't know who Mark Rogers is, he has been involved in the InfoSec scene for a number of years. He is one of the heads of security for DEF CON.
I
I
would
believe
say
he's actually the
decades, not
chief,
years.
the head guy, like in terms of security for DEF CON. When Delchai was having some issues, I believe he came to visit you, right, Delchai? You there still, buddy? I think Delchai might have had to hop off for some work stuff. But yeah, he's an all-around pretty good dude from my understanding. I've met the guy maybe once or twice in passing. Unfortunately, I'm not a good friend of his, but I have heard what happened. And as a Facebook friend of his, I did see some posts related to what he's been going through, and medically, it's not so great. So if somebody could grab that link for the GoFundMe, I'm looking for it now in my messages and just having a difficult time finding it. I'll
I've
put
got
it up
it.
here.
I'll put it in the chat real quick. Here you go.
Thank you, good sir.
He's been having ever since the day I met him, he's been having health issues, and this is the most intense one I've seen yet.
Yeah. C Junkie is his handle, by the way, for those of you. Some people refer to him as CJ. And where the heck did you put it? Oh, there it is. Thank you. So open link in new tab. And let's share this tab. So this is Support Mark Rogers Road to Recovery. I'm going to grab this link right here. And I'm also going to pop it as a banner so that people can see it. So that is the GoFundMe for Mark. It looks like it's done pretty well so far. Having raised, I think, $55,000 of a $100,000 goal with 225 donations. I did see some
there.
A-lister type people who have donated in the comments there. We have Irene, Mario, AJ, even Tara Wheeler and Deviant donated $300. I'm very happy of all the people who are donating to this, and when I get paid, I'm going to donate as well. I think it's a good cause. This dude, I mean, Sl3dge, as a real goon, not a foon like me, you can definitely talk a lot more as to who Mark is and his character than I can. But I know everybody knows him.
I'll just say, DEF CON wouldn't be the same without him.
Yeah, man. He's an invaluable and loved member of our hacker community. A great researcher and friend who's always there to jump in and help, no matter the project or problem. He recently suffered whiplash that broke his neck and is currently recovering. I know that he had his neck kind of fall apart the night before they were going to do surgery, and then they had to bolt him back together. For a bit, he thought he was going to be a quadriplegic, and then regained about 75% of his mobility after that surgery, just based on the Facebook posts. But anybody who watches this, I really hope you're able to donate to Mark. He's a great guy. So that's that share there. Now, in terms of InfoSec stuff for the week, we have a couple of articles I did want to go over from, I usually just go to Zach Whitaker because he puts together this great little newsletter called This.Week in Security. And I'm going to share my screen here. So I tend to check this once a week anyway, but let me reshare. This Week in Security, share. Okay, so Zach's newsletter, highly recommend if you work in InfoSec, you subscribe to it. And I think one of my plugins might be blocking it. Oh, let me fix that. And of course, man, my block list sucks lately. Anyhow, I will get that up in just a second. I'm not sure what the hell's going on there, but it's probably DNS. I had an issue this week that blew my mind with DNS. And I was trying to play Helldivers, right? And it would not connect to the PlayFab server, no matter what I did. I went as far as doing a full OS reinstall. I figured maybe I'd been banned for cheating or something. Not that I would cheat, but man, it blew my mind. And then finally, I went into my, typical. You go into NCPA. You open up Windows. NCPA.cpl to bring up your little network control. control panel app thing. And then I went to Ethernet here, and I went down to properties, and then I went over to IPv4, and then I went to properties, and I went use the following DNS server, and I changed that to 1.1.1.1, and as a backup 8.8.8.8. And to my surprise, after doing that, my shit just started working. So I just did the same thing here. Well, let's see if that fixed it.
It wasn't DNS. It's never DNS. It was DNS.
It's always DNS, man. It's like, see, it was DNS. And that's my ISP's DNS didn't resolve it, which is just weird. But so we got a January 5th edition here, and we got welcome back to This Week in Security, and have a Happy New Year. And he's got this wonderful little GIF here. He's got a great TLDR, and that, for those of you who have never seen Reddit, TLDR stands for too long didn't read. A lot of people will repost articles, I think, without actually reading them because they like the headlines. So to have somebody who takes these articles and summarizes them in a great way where you don't have to read the whole article if you don't have the time is really helpful to me. First one, Chinese hackers compromised the Treasury Sanctions Office. So what is the Treasury Sanctions Office, mind you? The Office of Foreign Assets Controls, or OFAC, which was recently hacked by the Chinese government-backed hackers, officially. The hackers used a breached private key owned from Beyond Trust. Now, what is Beyond Trust? They are used by many MSSPs and other providers to allow remote access into systems. Kind of think of it as a secure remote desktop solution, kind of a team viewer type thing, right? So they are able to breach a private key in a supply chain upstream attack and use that access to hack the Treasury Sanctions Office. This is the latest cyber attack by China targeting the US, but there is a far and long history of them doing this, or at least attacks we attribute to them, because threat attribution is kind of
that we know of.
An art more than a science, in my opinion. So we are sanctioning Beijing-based firm Integrity Technology Group for its role in computer intrusion incidents. This follows a court-authorized operation to disrupt a botnet consisting of hundreds of thousands of consumers' devices in the US and worldwide. So another group within China, Salt Typhoon being one, and the other one being, I believe, something else Typhoon, they hacked a bunch of D-Link routers too, added them to their botnet, and we're using them in this really cool attack where if they want to hack a company, they hop onto a router that's near it, take over the router so it doesn't work anymore to actually serve up Wi-Fi, use their access to that router to then bridge it to a network they want to attack. So that was pretty cool 3 weeks ago, and now I guess the government's finally commenting on it. U.S. soldiers, before I go ahead.
Oh, you're not sharing your screen.
Oh, man. That sucks ass. Why didn't you
There you go.
I
was trying to do the timeout things, hoping you'd see it.
You gotta just speak up, man. I don't have that window shared when I got this window up, so I can't see shit. So anyway, this first one on the TLDR that I discovered here. And Sl3dge, what do you think about China hacking our treasury here?
What else is new?
I'm honestly surprised they didn't use one of their back doors in our telecom infrastructure to get to it. They went through all the trouble of doing a supply chain attack. It seems like extra steps.
Well, give it a few months.
You'd think if they have access to everybody's phone text messages, they could just find an easier way of taking over somebody's account. But,
like phishing.
Yeah. Next, we have U.S. Army soldier arrested in alleged AT&T Verizon extortions. So this one says that U.S. prosecutors arrested a serving U.S. Army soldier for his alleged part in mass thefts of cell phone records, thought to be from AT&T, from the cloud computing company Snowflake and Verizon last year. For those of you who don't remember the Snowflake breach, Snowflake advertised itself as a data lake. Essentially, it's a place where you can dump all of your really interesting company data in database form to them. They'll make it easily searchable and indexable for you at a cost of, you can also then share that and resell that data with other people. So like a lot of companies like say Verizon and AT&T use Snowflake, no surprise, because they would allow essentially Snowflake customers to then buy access to your phone records, which I think is incredibly unethical to begin with. But what's even worse is then that company got hacked, which is just as bad as when National Public Data got hacked.
Yeah. Well, it's useful for us.
Well, yeah, because we got copies of that shit, but that's different. So useful to hackers and people doing legitimate security work and research, really bad for everybody else, because now not only is your social security number out there because of the national public data breach, but now your phone number information, which likely includes data such as who you frequently contact from the Snowflake breach, has also been leaked. So for those enterprising individuals out there who want to deal with big data and build databases, now you've got a whole metric crap ton of data you can grab from breach forums and other sites and use it to make correlations between who hangs out with who's got what social security number, what email addresses are associated with what email. It's kind of like,
mean, you can even see who their neighbors are.
Right. It's kind of crazy.
And like old phone numbers and court records and traffic tickets. Like, it's stupid.
I agree, man. It's a crazy amount of data, and we definitely need better protections on data brokers. Like, if you're going to be a data broker and reselling this kind of info, you have to, like, in my opinion, have something even stronger than what they do for PCI compliance, right? Because it's one thing if you leak a bunch of credit cards, they can fix that. It's like reissue new cards and you call it a day and give them a year of monitoring. But when you leak people's social security numbers as well as their names of their neighbors and the names of their pets and all this other stupid info that are in these reports, you're giving bad guys more information to be able to pose as these these people and call up the help desk and be like, "Hi, this is John Smith. Oh yeah, my password reset question is what's my dog's name? Oh yeah, that's Fido. Yep. Okay, my new password is spring 2024. Okay, great. Thanks." And now, boom. And speaking of vishing engagements, congratulations on your last one there, Sl3dge. I did listen to some of those recordings, and good work, man.
I just hit it to the client, and they're just laughing their asses off.
It was well done.
But speaking of those, the identity stuff, how many we've gotten breached? Like, all of us as human beings have been breached so many times. How many of those identity protection services have you been offered over the last few years? Like, I probably have 10.
Yeah. So nowadays, nobody should pay for one of these I'm going to protect your identity services. Odds are, if you go on the internet and search your own information on one of the sites like Have I Been Pwned, put in your email, put in your phone number, or if you go to one of the ones that's maybe $10 a month, that'll actually show you the passwords like dehashed. There's odds are you're going to be in a couple of data breaches, and if you then research those companies are more than likely offering free data protection for a year as a result of that. So, meaning you could just go and look up the settlement information for that, which oftentimes is going to be publicly available online, and then reach out and get free data monitoring that way. So you don't have to pay for that shit. I haven't paid for it in 5 years. I had to keep giving my email to sketchy people, and there you go.
It's a grift.
It's a grift. I subscribe to all the shitty mailing lists. They'll go on like one of those mailinator sites and just like be like, "Hey, here's my email. Send me all the spam so I can test my spam filter." And then I get noticed that I'm in all these data breaches, and I'm like, "Excellent, free credit monitoring for life."
I smell a business model.
Next, we have Tangem fixes bug that exposed seed phrases. Those cryptocurrency guys out there would probably care a lot about this one. So this is a cryptocurrency wallet provider. So you know what your wallet is, right? That's where you keep your Bitcoin or Ethereum, or if you're smart, your Monero. Well, they fixed a bug that saw the company mistakenly log some users' private wallet keys. Mistakenly.
Oh,
we didn't mean to log your private key. We just accidentally sent it back to ourselves.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
So if you have their wallet, I recommend you migrate off to a different one. I don't have anyone to suggest, mind you. The one that I used to use, from my understanding, has security issues as well now. So I'm not going to even mention that one.
Yeah, they all kind of suck at one point in time or another.
Hardware wallets, unless you are somebody like Kingpin, you don't have the skills to break into that shit. So maybe get one of those for your offline stuff. Or if you're smart, just get a thumb drive and use Veracrypt on it and store your shit in a text file there, and save the password to get into that somewhere in your head, not written down, that you're not going to forget.
Do not forget the password, or you'll lose like $5 million, like one of my buddies.
Or throw out the hard drive and then yell at the town forever to let you dig up the garbage dump to try and get your old hard drive back, and then go to jail for sneaking into the garbage dump in the middle of the night.
Yep.
Certainly not a fake story that I made up. A look back at malware for Mac in 2024. So Patrick Wardle published an annual roundup for the state of Mac malware last year. The state of Mac malware. Geez. What do you mean? Macs don't get malware, man. That's
you can't hack a Mac,
bro. You can't hack a Mac, bro. That's for Windows users.
Until that one year they left Telnet wide open with the default password.
That was fun. So there is a nice little report here put out by Patrick Wardle, which is an annual roundup of the state of Mac malware. It's an interesting look at what's working in Mac malware, such as info stealers capable of pinching your passwords. So keep an eye out for fake apps or untrusted ones. Be very wary of installing anything that's not from your Apple store, and some things that are in your Apple store, especially when it asks you to install from unverified sources.
So my limited experience with a Mac, you actually have to purposely install something that might be malicious.
Yeah, they'll often attach it as a DMG file, right? And then you mount it, and then when you go to run the thing that's in there, it essentially asks you, and it has a big warning that pops up. Warning, you're about to install this software from an untrusted source. Are you sure you want to do this? And people will just click yes.
But then you have to go into the settings, unlock it with your credentials, click yes, and then run it again.
Right. And you'd think that step would be enough to keep idiots from just installing random shit. But when it comes to wares, there's always where there's a will, there's a way. Well, a lot of these backdoors that people get on their Macs are a result of them pirating shit. And then they go to get their free software, they become the product. Which is what we always say: if your shit's free, you're likely the product.
If you're running on a Mac, you probably have money to pay for the software anyways.
That's right. If you can afford that ridiculously overpriced computer that looks so smooth, you can also afford to pay for your fucking software and not then get your shit stolen. Next, we have vehicles amass huge troves of sensitive data. This reminds me of a TLP Red thing that I read about a year ago. It's probably declassified by now. So this was an issue that the FBI was warning everybody about, where if you are an agent, you shouldn't go and rent a truck or a car where you're then going to link your phone to it and then click yes when it says, should I import my contacts so I can make quick calls on the infotainment unit? So a lot of people would do this where they rent a truck, they rent a car, whatever. They sync their phone to it and then leave all the contact info in there. And then that car goes back to the shop and they don't clear it. So the next person who rents it, now when they sync their phone to it, depending on the make and model, mind you, and especially if they use Android Auto, guess what happens? It will sync all those contacts that are in the car back to the phone. Meaning when you have all the top secret phone numbers and shit in your phone, next person who rents the car and then idiotically clicks the yes to import contacts now gets all of your contact information that was on your phone. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah. So anyhow, womp womp. This is a little unrelated to that, mind you, but this is an exploding Tesla Cybertruck in Vegas led to a big discussion about the amount of data that vehicles collect and store on people, which can then be used by police or investigators, and the counterpoint being or shared with third parties for advertising purposes or lost and stolen to data breaches. Most modern vehicles collect a lot of data on you, including your precise location records, your speed, and even data from a phone that's connected to the car. Now, it might sound obvious, but your phone, when it's connected to your car, if your car has a SIM card in it and it's allowed to upload data back to the manufacturer, could take some data off your phone that you don't intend to give it and send that to the manufacturer. So it's not like too many people are looking into PCAPs of phone data over 4G and 5G networks. I'm sure there's some very interesting stuff in there if the car hacking village at DEF CON decides to go look at it.
Is there like a Wireshark for CAN bus?
Yes, there
Pretty
is,
sure
and
there
I'm
is.
glad you.
Yeah.
There's not only a plugin that you can put in Wireshark that will enable CAN bus traffic, but there are cool little CAN bus to Ethernet adapters that you can buy, where you can essentially get raw packet captures out of an Ethernet jack that's now plugged into the CAN bus on your car. There are also Bluetooth utilities that do the same shit. And lots of CAN bus readers. There's also a plugin for the flipper if you have the extreme firmware that will allow you to hook your flipper's GPIO pins up if you can get the pin out right and not fuck them up and cause power issues to both your car and your flipper, to read the interesting data that's going over that CAN bus as well, and also maybe remotely unlock certain vehicles. And some vehicles also, on a side note, will let you connect to the CAN bus via any thing that plugs a light bulb into the car, which is incredibly bad design choice, which led to threat actors kicking out the backlights of Kias and plugging in something that looks like an old cell phone, which isn't, that then remote started those cars and let them steal them, which was an incredibly dumb choice.
Holy shit, I have not seen that one.
Yeah, I'll pull that up in a little bit for you. Next, we have 2024 CVE shows cross-site scripting bugs were the most reported. As somebody who has done some bug bounty work, you're hardly ever going to get money for a cross-site scripting bug unless you can chain it onto something else that makes it more interesting. If you just submit a report for cross-site scripting and you show that alert pop up, they're just going to be like, okay, thanks, goodbye, and not give you shit.
Yeah.
If you want to make it fun, combine it with something like an LFI, pull down a PHP script from another server, figure out a way to make it executable, and then get a freaking remote shell on the thing. That they'll care about. Just make sure it's in scope.
Just got to make it actionable.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I were running a company and somebody just sent me an XSS bug, I'd be like, okay, well, that sucks, but I mean, what's it going to do? Also, difference between stored and reflected. So,
correct.
And how you can weaponize it different ways. So, I mean, is it an issue? Yeah. Is it one that you need to really worry about? Well, if you toss a CSP on your website, don't get me started on how many people don't want to put a CSP on their website. It would block that from working well. You know, a lot of the time, any of the exploits that could be a result of that, clickjacking, anything like that, they ain't going to do shit. So you could follow best practices or you can continue to get owned.
Let's see how many cookies we can grab.
Dude, cookie theft is fun. You ever do the one where you have like a page for resetting a password and you find some cross-site scripting in that? So you formulate an email to the person to have them reset their password, but then send the token to you instead of them. That's great. So they click the link to reset their password, and not only do they get the reset token, but you get it too. And it's nice if you get it first, because then you just go reset their shit.
Quick.
If they're kind enough to let you re-enroll in something like Okta as a result of resetting your password, which some solutions offer. Those are also fun. Fix your code, people, was, I wonder if they got a cat. They usually have a cat at the bottom of these. Look, cyber cats. This is a mug. That's a mug, not a cat. How could you not have a real cat, man? Gotta have a real cat.
Cyber cat, do.
Oh no, that's gonna be stuck in my head now. We got some other newsy nuggets that he puts at the bottom. U.S. teachers, firefighters paying for spyware firm. So what's spyware firm? Well, let me give you a hint. They're an Israeli spyware firm, and they make Paragon. So a deal to get U.S. Israeli spyware maker Paragon into the hands of U.S. private equity giant AE Industrial Partners for $500 million was funded in part by several retirement funds for American teachers, police, and firefighters. You can't help but imagine plenty of folks not very much wanting that to be where their retirement funds are being invested. But I guess spyware sells, right? You know? You ever watch Billions? Yeah, the whole thing with the firefighters pension. Very interesting. Pony up your ID for porn. So, anybody who's tried to go to Pornhub in 17 of 50 U.S. states lately has been hit with that really annoying block telling them that due to this new law that's in place, they're not going to let you watch porn at all on Pornhub, because rather than comply with this stupid law, which is designed to protect parents who are too lazy to protect their kids on the internet by monitoring what they do, or at least giving them some restrictions, instead, we're going to make everybody who wants to watch porn upload their ID. And that data that would be then linked to your ID certainly wouldn't ever be used for nefarious purposes, such as blackmailing a politician who likes tranny porn.
Oh, dude, also, if you got arrested for something, they could pull up your porn records and use that against you in court, probably.
You're accused of rape. Let's see. Well, it says here that you like porn of I don't know, pick tagline here. Forced, I guess, would be a tagline. I don't fucking know. But like, you like this kind of porn and you're accused of this. Well, now guess what? That's going to come up in your court case.
It correlates.
And you know what else happened along there too is sales of VPN accounts went through the roof, which is kind of sad because a lot of the VPNs out there are crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look,
insert VPN ad here.
Yeah, man, we gotta get a deal with one of these VPN providers and make some money off of that shilling.
I mean, it ranges from just the ones that leak to the ones that resell your data to God knows what, you know?
I agree, man. All of them.
And if these people aren't smart enough to put filters in their home systems or to take care of their kids, they're not going to be smart enough to test whether or not a VPN leaks, or maybe not even know what a VPN is.
See, that's the thing. Instead of making a regulation for the entire state or whatever, make it more accessible for parents to actually lock down their networks. But they don't know what they're doing, so they don't know how to do it. So is there like a turnkey solution for that?
Yeah, it's called Ask Your Kid for Help. But unfortunately, in this case, it kind of works in reverse. Hey, can you help me block you from watching porn? Sure, Ma, I'll get right on that.
No, I mean, like, maybe like a Raspberry, like kind of like a pie hole, but for porn sites or whatever you don't want them to watch. Just plug it in and forget about it.
You know what's funny is a lot of the streaming companies have taken to making accounts, and you have the adult account and the kids account, and they take on the onus of saying what the kid can watch and what they can't. But you know what they forgot about, at least in my experience? Amazon, you know how Amazon loves their advertising now. They've turned the Amazon Fire Stick into an ad box.
Yep.
And if you let it sit idle long enough, instead of going to the rotation of here's the photos that are in your photos, it goes into playing ads. And it has no compunction about showing boner pill ads.
Nice.
God.
Those hacked Fire Sticks that they sell, like people who don't know how to freaking install the software on them themselves. I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of them are backdoored beyond that and are used as pivot points into home networks. I mean, it's just a theory, but if I were selling essentially a product as a bad guy, already doing something illegal, where I'm putting like IPTV services preloaded onto a Fire Stick so people can watch whatever TV station they want, as a bad guy, I don't think there's much stopping me from then tossing some malware on there so I can remotely access it and use it as a pivot into somebody's network. Hell, even as something as simple as a social engineering toolkit, doing a Metasploit shell would be extremely easy. Oh, look, now that we're done with politics, Dataflex is back. Just busting balls, dude. Welcome back, man. Hello? Anyhow, I see no compunction. I see nobody stopping to have an ethical quandary who's selling a hacked Fire Stick of then adding some malware to it. Was I was just trying to say. Go ahead, Mr. Sl3dge.
Since we still have Delchai and he was talking about being handicapped, I would say, hey, look, I'm part of the club for at least another couple months.
Okay. Indeed. Welcome back, dude.
Hey, there we go. Awesome. Can you all hear me?
I can.
Fantastic.
So
What?
Yeah.
right now, it's 17 out of 50 states are requiring ID for porn, and Pornhub being one of the sites that's not complying with it. Don't be surprised if more porn sites start not complying with it as well, meaning that if your IP comes from one of those states, they won't let you watch porn. Now, who doesn't like to watch porn besides asexual people? I don't know, but maybe women. I'm not sure. Hackers, next article here, have started leaking data on Rhode Island residents. I haven't. Have any of you? I know you're all hackers. Any of you leaking data on Rhode Island residents? No.
It's kind of snowy up there. I don't really think that there's much that I want to.
Do we have to go all the way back
Well-
to Avenue Q?
Other than Family Guy episodes, no.
Guys,
So this
do we
was
have
one,
to go back to Avenue Q?
you know,
The internet is for
porn.
porn.
The state of government Rhode Island said the hackers behind a recent ransomware attack on its state systems for residents' social services programs and benefits have leaked some of the data online. The state is urging residents to take action to protect themselves, and residents' ID documents and personal information was stolen. Around 650,000 people used this system that was hacked, and I imagine since they're doing a special shout out to Deloitte, that the they are the GovTech contractor who set up and managed that system. Ironically, Deloitte also offers DFIR services, and I have a friend over there who does threat intelligence. So
We're
guess
gonna
what? They
break
can
your
maybe
leg and
triage
sell
their
you
own
a-
breach. Sorry, we sold you this shit that got breached, but let us sell you some DFIR services for $400 an hour minimum to help you clean that up.
Sorry, we broke your leg. Let me sell you this crutch for $1 million.
Oh boy. So yeah, Rhode Island residents, be on the lookout. Maybe sign up for one of those identity monitoring platforms by, like I said, looking for your breach data online and then contacting them to get the free credit monitoring.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing you can do, right, is to freeze your credit with the major credit bureaus.
Yeah, freezing your credit, and don't just do it with one. Do it with all three.
All three, yeah, and don't you don't have to pay for any of them. That's the other. They really want you to pay for nothing.
That's what
Yeah.
we're poking fun at. Is we've all been breached so many times. How many free credit monitoring service are you offered over
For
the
life, yeah.
years?
That's the wrong kind of LifeLock, you know.
Hell yeah. So credit monitoring is, like I said, not something you should pay for ever, because you can get it for free because everybody's been in at least one breach. So go look for it. Tenable CEO Amit Yoran dies. Amit Yoran was the CEO of security firm Tenable. Tenable being the people who also maintained the Nessus program, for those of you. In my opinion, one of the better vuln scanners out there. He passed away. That sucks. After taking a leave in absence, he battled cancer. He was 54 years old. Cancer gets another one. They got Mitnick,
Damn.
and now they got this guy.
Fuck cancer.
Indeed.
The happy corner. After hearing that cancer news, I could definitely use. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I remember Tenable kind of forming up. You know, it was basically around the same time like Metasploit, and then we're coming out, and I guess slightly before Rapid7, and I think that he established a pretty good culture over there, and really did something, you know, some good stuff for our industry.
Agreed.
Do you guys remember when Nessus was its standalone application?
Oh yeah.
Any of you remember the syntax for Nessus CLI?
Oh.
To the lucky folks with data protection laws, get spammed? Don't get mad, get even. This is one way to find out how they got your data to begin with. Received 2 spam emails, including my personal data. Sent 2 subject access requests for the source of my personal information. Happy holidays. And to get a little bit more into what the hell he's saying there, when we click the link, it should bring us to the Mastodon page. And there's not really much else to explain what he means there. But I'm sure somebody here can explain it. Can any of you explain what a subject access request is for the source of their personal data? Anyone know? I don't know. Maybe I'll ask Perplexity to explain it to me.
Yeah, I'm thinking if there's nothing else on here, that perhaps that it's a link to somewhere else and he's pulling logs.
Perplexity. What's it mean? I'm dumb. Okay. So, spam emails are unsolicited emails. Personal data. We know these things. Subject access request. That's what we care about. Under data protection laws like GDPR in Europe and California, in the US, individuals have the right to request access to their personal data held by organizations. This includes knowing what data is being processed, the purpose of the processing, and with whom it was shared. The purpose of SARS, the sender has sent these requests to find out where did you get the data from, how long have you had it, and with whom has it been shared. Pretty interesting to know how these laws work and how you can use them to your advantage.
Yeah. That's get them twice. Steal their data, abuse their customers, and then get them fined. It's good stuff.
Indeed. This year brings a whole new edition of What Can Doom Run On? And we're in for a treat as Hav0k built a Doom CAPTCHA that's capable of verifying you're human, I am human, by playing the age-old classic to take out at least 3 enemies before they get you. This is probably the coolest CAPTCHA ever. I'm going to have to implement this on all my websites now.
Absolutely.
I want this to become the next like bot wars. You know, like we've got Doom, we've got camera with object identification in it. Like let's actually just real world that.
And
So,
speaking of things you can run Doom on, one of my buddies just got this new vape with a touchscreen that has games on it, and I bet you could run Doom on that thing.
God, if Camel could have that back in the day, we'd all be wearing leather jackets and smelling like grandma.
I
You
really
smell
like
like the inside of my mama's purse.
For those of you who remember, there was an article we covered on one of the other casts that was talking about how CAPTCHA is essentially spyware at this point, and how companies like Google are also using the data that you are figuring out for them to train AI models for things like their self-driving cars. Look, I love CAPTCHA in that it can protect a website from people submitting forms and spam crap to that, like put garbage data on there, or maybe block a bad actor who's trying to bot shit out. But at the same time, there has to be a good balance. I like Turnstile a little bit, from Cloudflare, but there needs to be a better way to do this, and eventually they'll find it. I hope Doom is the way, honestly. I would play Doom to kill 3 monsters to solve a CAPTCHA any day.
Let me log
sounds a
in
lot
again.
more fun than match the triangle to the square or some other bullshit ones. Anybody ever get a CAPTCHA that can't be solved too? Those ones drive me
Yes.
nuts, where it's like no matter what you pick, the option is wrong. It's
Click
like,
the bicycle. Do you mean the handle that's barely sticking out on this square, or
this is a welcome change. Next, we have how your email finds me, and Hello Kitty smashing a computer.
I have found my nemesis?
Oh, look, we got a dog. It's not a cyber cat. That's a friend. He's not a pretty cute dog, though.
That's a friendo.
It's a friendo. I like doggos. This is a cyber pup, Terrence, a.k.a. the Terminator, whose human tells him, stop staring at screens. I submitted a cat picture to this at one point, and it got published, and I was very happy. Although my hair at the time was like, anyway, so that was This Week in Security by Zach Whitaker. One of the best InfoSec newsletters, in my opinion, that are free for you to get and don't cost shit. And in no way is he sponsoring us in any way, shape, or form. I would probably be pissed that we covered he'll shit on our podcast without attribution. So at least I'm kind enough to provide some attribution.
If he shits on us, he can at least buy us a beer.
Yeah, man. We should make it when people say shit like this up here. We start a little cue. For instance, first here that Lambda said, and then we had this guy. Nah, I was here first. Oh, do we get a prize? Well, guess what? Maybe that prize will be if you meet us at a conference, we'll buy you a beer. That can be your prize there. Then Sledge is going to be at the bar with no money, and everybody's going to be like, Sledge, where's my beer? And he'd be like, sorry, first come, first serve.
I'm all out.
I'm all out. Send us a pen test referral and get a beer.
Hey, there you go. I'm handing you a $5 business card. You buy me a beer.
There you go. I want to remake Mitnick's business card, but change the name to ours and then give that out at cons. If only I could do it cheaper.
I did find a company that does it for like $4, but I don't want to. It's kind of sacrilegious to copy that.
Mm-hmm.
We can improve on it. We could add a Bogota to it that's better than the one that was on there. Or
I heard you could put a Doom captcha on it.
There you go. We put a Doom captcha on it. Or,
honestly, I would change the card from picks to the bypass tools.
Well, you could take one of these little freaking trackers from SenseCap that's got the ability to run Meshtastic on it and turn that into a business card once the price gets down a little lower. That'd be a cool business card. Here's your business card, and it's going to join you to a mesh network of other hackers in the area. Don't worry about that.
And you have to connect it to your computer.
Oh, yeah. Toss a auto install. What's the freaking thing from DVDs back in the day? Auto run.
Yeah.
Yeah. Toss that on there so when you mount it to update the firmware, it has an auto run that just runs.
What was it, like the UNI partition? UNI, I think.
Man, you know what's sad is like now that attack would be like put a prompt in there that tricks your Windows 11 AI.
Oh, there was that one stupid one where if you have a file in a Windows share and Windows Explorer goes to even load like the icon for the file, it goes out to do an SMB request across the internet and then sends the hash of the logged in user just from having a file in a folder. That would be an evil thing to put on something like that.
I've actually used that on an internal one time. It was awesome.
I think you're lying, but we'll still see. There was this chick I met a while ago at a SummerCon, I think it was SummerCon conference, doing the music after, and her name was Lex, the lexicon artist, and she was selling her CD, but it was on a business card with a thumb drive fold-up insert. And I was like, my God, I should buy all of these, put malware on them, and then give them back to her and let her redistribute them for me. But I didn't because I'm not a black hat. But that was the intrusive thought that popped into my head, you know. Yeah, man, there's some interesting ways of distributing stuff out there, and interesting ways of getting into places, like having a VIP pass that doesn't say where it's for, and just walking into the VIP area. I got nothing left, guys. Anybody have any content they want to go through?
Oof. I'm tired.
Not really.
Yeah.
Well, I should get off and start working on my pen test report then.
Yeah, we've all got shit to do.
We got to do shit. Well, I would like to thank you all for joining our podcast this week. Please, if you have the ability, go and hit that GoFundMe and donate to Mark Rogers' Road to Recovery. That dude's awesome. And other than that, I got nothing. We don't have sponsors. We don't have any shit like that on this cast. So if you want to support us, just give support Mark. That would be awesome. Thank you. And I have a new outro provided by Delchai that I'm going to play here. I have not reviewed it first, so hopefully he does not get us all demonetized. But here is the audio. It's only audio only, so the video shall stay on.
Late night glow from a CRT screen, typing in shadows, unseen and keen. He's the ghost in the code, the phantom trace, a digital outlaw leaving no face, with a stack of exploits and a devilish plan. He's rewriting rules across cyberspace land. From buffer overflows to remote controls, Dill Dog is your man, breaking all the molds. In the world of ones and zeros, he takes his stand. From buffer overflows to remote controls, Dill Dog is your man. Fire calling, it's never enough. He's a legend in forums, a coder supreme, living life one packet, one stream. From buffer overflows to remote controls, Dildog is your man, breaking all the molds. In the world of ones and zeros, he takes his stand. From buffer overflows to remote controls, Dildog is your man. He's not just a hacker, he's a pioneer, turning fear into power, making threats disappear. With a keyboard's click, he builds or breaks, walking the fine line, whatever it takes. So here's to Dildog, the digital king, master of the network. Hear his name ring in the code's Wild West. He makes his stand. From buffer overflows to remote controls, Dildog is your man. Late night glow from a CRT screen.
Go home.
Typing in shadows, unseen and keen. He's the ghost in the code.